I recently bought this Ninjago Jungle Raider set from 2020, and it got me thinking about Ninjago Legacy and the best sets it had to offer. Legacy was of course the sub-theme that began in 2019 and ended with the 10-year anniversary of Ninjago in 2021, reimagining old sets for the modern day with updated building techniques, new minifigures, and sometimes improved show accuracy. And the sets that we're about to look at, I think, perfectly show where Legacy excelled the most and set the perfect example for what LEGO should do if they ever choose to bring this sub-theme back. So the Jungle Raider is a really fun little build and is actually a rare case of Legacy making something smaller rather than bigger. The original Jungle Raider completely dwarfs this one, but honestly, that's okay. Despite the massive reduction in size, it's still clearly recognisable as the buggy that Lloyd drove through the tournament and can still hold a single minifigure, with Lloyd's Legacy tournament suit being the only one included. The best thing here though is that it managed to keep the same suspension feature of the original. The back wheels can bounce up and down as you drive it around, so you can bump it all around rough terrain thanks to a simple design using some Technic connectors and rubber pieces. At $10, this was a perfect little treat, showing that it is possible to go smaller and still pack in a similar amount of action compared to a larger set. The Jungle Raider isn't the only example of this. The Samurai Xmech from 2019 also shows why sometimes going smaller is the right decision. Sure, it's not totally accurate to the big mech from 2012, but that doesn't change the fact that this is an absolutely brilliant set. This mech is super expressive thanks to the plethora of mixel ball joints used, giving it articulation in the feet, legs, hands, elbows and shoulders. There's an awful lot that you can do with it, and the friction in the joints is good enough that it can hold many great poses, so not only is it great to play around with, but it's also a wonderful set to display as well. It's still armed with missiles on the shoulders and large handheld weapons, only now they can also be removed and used by minifigures, so poor old Knuckle and Cruncher better watch out. These Legacy skeletons honestly weren't the best, but the accurate face prints were nice to have. Sometimes the original set is just done so well that a remake would always fail to live up to it, and I think the Samurai Xmech is a case where that is definitely true. Going smaller I think really helps the Legacy version stand out as its own thing. It's without a doubt heavily inspired by the original, but it isn't trying to be it, and it made for one of my favourite Ninjago mech sets of all time. The Golden Dragon on the other hand is an example where going smaller definitely leads to a complete improvement in every way possible. This once again utilises the mixel ball joint system to great effect, with this dragon being incredible when it comes to articulation. There's so much movement in the legs, the tail, the neck and the wings that you can really get this in some great poses and play around with it. The Legacy Golden Dragon also saw the reintroduction of the original Ninjago Dragon head design, only now it's remoulded as a much smaller hard plastic piece, which obviously scales better for this mixel joint build. It can still shoot energy though thanks to a stud shooter, but unlike the original, this can fully open and close its mouth, which adds just that little bit more extra to the expressiveness of this creature. The original set was good for the time and provided a great endpoint for that original era of Ninjago Dragons, but yeah, the Legacy set really is undoubtedly the better of the two. It even offered up the first Overlord minifigure since 2014, giving fans a cheap way to get hold of that classic villain. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't some rant about wanting smaller Ninjago sets, although I do think we do need more of those, because there are cases where bigger is indeed better, as proven by Cole's Earth Driller. The original set was okay, but when comparing it to its show counterpart, it really was desperately in need of an update. And update it they did, because the 2019 Earth Driller is quite possibly one of the most show accurate looking Legacy builds ever made, and easily one of Cole's best ever vehicles. The cockpit now has the awesome Earth details printed on it, and inside is full of control panels for the two minifigures to sit down and use. The drill could still be turned by rolling the set forwards, but it could also be manually operated by turning this piece at the back as well, so if you want to just sit there drilling a giant rock, you can do that. What turned this from a brilliant set to downright perfect though, is the inclusion of the giant Stone Warrior. Not only did this set perfectly update an old vehicle, it offered up a brand new build we'd never gotten before. I mean, sure, this character appeared in the Cryptarian Prison set, but he was hardly giant. Now though, LEGO utilised the Giant Man figure building system they created in 2016 and brought the Giant back to life properly, with stickers for all his stone armour details, 4 arms that can all move around, and Stone Samurai helmet perfectly captured in the build for his head. He honestly looks like he's just been plucked right out of the show. Speaking of getting something new, 2021's Overlord Dragon stands out as one of the only Legacy sets to not be based on a set we got before, instead giving us something entirely new from a classic season of the show. And what's more, it was also the only villain-based Legacy set, so it was a real double whammy. We'd been asking for an Overlord Dragon for years at this point, and this was definitely a good set, which in some ways feels like a nice callback to the original dragons while still being quite unique. The wings use large purple blades, as does the long tail, while the blue body is decorated with purple spikes. The thick legs also get a decent amount of articulation while still having enough friction to hold the dragon up without collapsing over. It wasn't the most accurate set in the world. I mean, the gold on the underbelly is a bit out of place, but I still think it was a fine build, with the head also looking the part, with spiky teeth and evil purple eyes. And it certainly looks the part when facing off against the golden dragon. Another dragon that Legacy built to perfection was the Ultra Dragon. The original set split its parts between the dragon, Great Devourer and Serpentine Prism, but with Legacy, almost all of its 951 pieces were dedicated to the dragon itself, and it really paid off. It still has a similar build, with the same flapping wings feature integrated in, but now everything is much bulkier and more accurate to the way the thing looked in the show. The legs are longer and thicker, and sure, they've lost their articulation, but I'd say it's a fair sacrifice. The saddle area for Lloyd is also so much better, with a properly decorated chair with chains leading to all four heads, which can now sit on the same plane. Now, this is where things diverge a bit from show accuracy, because instead of using new molded heads like the Golden Dragon, it instead goes for a brick built design, and I really love how these look. Each one is free to move on both a ball joint and a ratchet joint further down, and they all have details relative to their specific elements, plus stud shooters to represent their energy blasts. And what's more, if you compare the Lightning Dragon head to Stormbringer's head, I think there's a real similarity there, so you could really treat this Ultra Dragon as a whole separate creature to the original if you wanted. But if you do want a more show accurate look, then all you need to do is replace these heads with the originals. If you don't have the old set, they're really cheap to get hold of on Bricklink, and I think this looks equally great. Would I have liked molded heads in the style of the Golden Dragon? Well, absolutely, but I'm also really happy with what we got. The Ultra Dragon is a true standout for this sub-theme, going smaller again, and next we have the Tournament of Elements, which, while technically a remake of Dojo Showdown, completely changed the layout to instead represent a fully show-accurate snapshot of Chen's palace. Not only did it look the part, but with Anacondri banners, hidden jade blades, Klaus's spellbook, and even a crate with roller skates, it was full of references to take you right back to 2015 to relive one of the show's best ever seasons. But what sets this one apart from other Legacy sets is in its minifigures, as this was the only set outside the big city to introduce new characters in the form of Balobo, Gravis, and Jacob. All the other sets simply included remakes to varying degrees of accuracy, when, just like with making new builds, there was certainly a lot that Legacy could have offered in terms of new figures. I think Dr. Julian is probably the most obvious example, who would have made a great addition to the Earth Driller. At least the new city set seems to be learning from this and giving us updates of old characters as well as some brand new ones as well. But all these characters need a home, and for the ninja, that came in the form of 2019's Monster Eve Spinjitzu. At 1,070 pieces, it was the biggest of the first Legacy wave, and included a fine selection of minifigures as well, offering up all 6 ninja, Master Wu, and a Skull Kit, plus all 4 of the new golden weapons. This set was instantly recognisable, capturing the iconic design of the monastery courtyard in all its glory. It's built in 2 sections, so you can remove the front gateway area to open up the courtyard and get a better look at the awesome murals referencing all the important adventures from the first 10 seasons, including the 6 handprints from the end of March of the Oni. There were also some moving sections to represent the training equipment for the ninja to learn Spinjitzu, with the golden weapons all getting their own special stands for display. And not only were there spots for Wu to sit under the roof, but also a pot of tea so the ninja can try and complete the training course before he finishes his cup. The main building was also just beautifully made, with lots of little lanterns hanging down, red cups used to add detail to the pillars, and gorgeous windows. The Legacy Dojo training, or even the movie one, also make for brilliant little additions to this, so you can start to build up an interior for the monastery, which is one thing that was missing from the main set. But regardless of that, as far as Ninjago Legacy sets go, they really didn't get much better than this. Obviously, this is all just my opinion, so feel free to share your own thoughts in the comments below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks for watching.